Hello, everybody, and welcome. This will be our official launch. My name is Adam Pratt, and I am the founder and owner of a company in the Chicago area called Chaos to Memories. You can guess what that is about. Our clients bring us chaos, like boxes, bins, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of media, and we digitize it and convert it and organize it into safe, searchable, sorted, shareable, family photo archives. Most of our clients are families. Some of them, we have done some organizations, some schools, some things like that, but most of our clients are families. And that's actually what got me started in this. So just like a little rewind and kind of where I'm coming from. So we're based in the Chicago suburbs, and I have been scanning material for at least 28 years, and I've used every kind of scanner. I've used flatbeds, drums, film scanners, slide scanners, you name it. Everything we do now, the irony is that we do scanning, but we don't use scanners. Everything we do is high-end digital SLR scanning, camera scanning. And that's most of what I'll talk about today and show you kind of what we do. There was a question in the registration of like, hey, what are you most interested in? Loud and clear, the strongest winner was camera scanning. So my plan is to give you a quick tour of kind of like everything we do here, answer questions as we go, and then we'll kind of like land on the camera scanning rig and show you a little bit of that, show you some of the tools, the process, the tricks and stuff that we use, and answer as many questions as we go. Also to set expectations, in Chicago, it's 1:05 p.m. You can translate that to your slice of the world, but my plan is to run for an hour. That'll give us, I think, time to kind of give you a tour, let you know what we do, and then answer a bunch of questions, and then we'll go from there. The other thing that I'm going to do that hopefully will be fun is at the end of the session, I've just got a couple giveaways. You know, we offer coaching, we offer courses, different stuff. I've got a book that I'll show you that I wrote last year. I've just got some giveaways just to kind of make it fun. A lot of us are at home a lot, so I thought I'd try to spice it up a little bit. So that's where we're headed. Give me a thumbs up. Does that sound good? Helpful? Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for being here. So I do have an assistant. You want to come say hi? So Donovan, here's Donovan. Donovan is the newest member of our staff here, and he is overqualified for the job. He's got tons of video experience, and so I did not give him a good camera. I just have a webcam today, but it's a nice webcam. So I'm going to have Donovan kind of follow me around. We'll try to make this look semi-professional. Follow me around with the camera so you can kind of get a peek of what we're doing. And he will be the man behind the curtain, as it were. Cool. So let's start here. I will try to stay in camera as we unmount that. But we do a lot of things at Chaos to Memories, and one of the things that I enjoy is trying to do a little bit of everything. I like the variety and working in different mediums and things like that. And so in a nutshell, we do photo scanning of every kind. So prints, slides, negatives, tintypes, glass plate negatives. I really like the weird stuff, and I'll show you some examples of that, like Viewmaster reels, disc film, stereo realist slides, like all of that kind of stuff. In addition to that, we convert videos of at least a dozen formats. We don't do like everything ever created, but we do a lot of different video formats. I'll show you a little bit about that. The other thing, we did a major upgrade this summer to our film digitizing suite, and that's what you see here. Sometimes the lights can be a little harsh, so I don't want to blow anybody's eyes away, but what you see here is a retro scan universal system from Movie Stuff. They're down in Texas. It looks like an old machine, but it's new. And what this allows us to do is convert. What you see on here is a 50-foot reel of 8mm film. And here's a few more. Whoops. So just old film reels. We generally we do 8mm, including Super 8, regular 8, and this machine is also capable of supporting like just about everything, 9.5, 17, weird kind of odd formats, all the way up to 35mm film. So we run that on here, and one of the things, I don't know, actually Donovan, can you, I don't know if you can get a good, get a good zoom in there. What's interesting about this, let's see, is that doing it justice? Yeah. So the cool thing about this is where the film comes through, when the film comes through, nothing's touching the film. Like air and light are touching the film, but there's no claws, there's no, there's nothing grabbing the sprockets. So we really like this setup. And then the other nice thing about it is not only is it flexible in terms of what it captures, but the other thing that I love is there's actually, it's hard to see it in the light, but there's a laser guided pin here on the side that actually senses every single sprocket hole as the film goes through. So instead of capturing video, we're capturing individual frames that then at the right frame rate, right, we turn into a movie. So it's really high quality. You don't get the jitter and stutter that we all remember from these old reels. So that's pretty fun. We do a lot of that. We've been doing like 10,000 feet a month of at least of old film reels. And then over here on this little station, is that coming through? Yeah. So I just wanted to point out a couple of the tools that we use that we find really helpful as we're editing film. So anytime we're preparing film, we're always wearing gloves to keep it clean. And then in terms of the tools, I like to look at kind of other industries. So a lot of times I end up at the craft store or the sewing shop. And so these are just like some Fiskars, little trimmers, but I find them really helpful for trimming film. And then I've got this little stand I built for leader. So when we need to add a little bit to the beginning or the end, so we can get the full capture, we've got Super 8, regular 8, 16 millimeter leader on this little stand. We roll it out, we trim it. We use this classic old Kodak universal splicer. So it does like kind of all the main formats. And then we splice it with these, classic press tapes. The other thing, and some of you may have seen me talk about this a little bit recently, but I got a great little loop from Carson. They've kind of been around forever, but it's a great little, I think it's like a 17X or 11X, something like that, magnifying loop. And so this just allows me to inspect film, check things without having to run it through the machine. So if I want to just see what's on it, I use that for slides, film, all sorts of stuff. We also use something called Solvon. This is a film cleaner. Is that coming through okay? Oh, there we go, perfect. So it's a film cleaner and conditioner. This film, these old films, they get dirty, they get dusty, with age they get brittle. So this cleaner conditioner helps us get kind of the junk. It's not going to remove mold, but it'll help remove dust. It makes the film a little bit more pliable as we run it and digitize it. It's also super fast drying. So literally as we wind it or capture it or clean it, as we run it through, and this is maybe like the last thing from this little station, but we've got these little film rewinders. I tried to make my own a while ago. It didn't work very well, I'll be honest. So I ended up buying these from Van Eck video services in the Netherlands. They were a little expensive, but they work really, really well. And they work with all sorts of different film formats. So as we crank it through here and run that through there, this film cleaner dries so fast, but that by the time we run it through a cloth and it gets to the other side of the reel, it's like already dry, right? So we kind of run it through there twice, give it a good cleaning, and then we run it through this machine. So anyway, that's kind of like the first main station, a little bit about what we do. Donovan, maybe we can go back to the chat pod. We won't make anybody too seasick. Let me just go to the chat pod. Any questions about kind of the motion picture side of that? Maybe everybody's just here for the camera scanning. That's cool. We'll get there in a second. Any questions on that front? Does Solvon work for negatives? Good question, Anne. It should. I actually don't use it. Like, I don't see why I wouldn't. I tend to use the Edwall film cleaner or the PEC 12 film cleaner. But it's all the same material, right? It's film. It was either film 1 frame at a time or 18 frames a second. So it's fine. Let's see. Questions. So what if there's mold? So if there's mold, you've really got a couple of options. One is generally you want to digitize it as soon as possible, because you can stop mold by cleaning it and freezing it, but you can't reverse mold. Like once mold starts to eat the emulsion of a film, it's not going to come back, right? So that's like number one priority, get that stuff digitized. So that's on the mold front. Again, stop it. You can't reverse it really. In terms of, I see Mel's question about vinegar. So some of you guys may be familiar with Vinegar Syndrome. You'll open a can of film and it's just exactly as it sounds. It smells like vinegar and it's pretty pungent. If you see that and are dealing with that, you will, again, there's no way to really reverse that. You can stall it. The first priority would be to digitize it. And there's one other tip that may be counterintuitive. If you have film that smells like vinegar, you may say like, ooh, that's bad. Like I want to isolate that. And so some people will like put it in an airtight container. That's actually the worst thing you can do with it, because it accelerates the decomposition. Like that, those are gases that are coming off from the decomposition of the film. And with more gas in there, it's going to actually speed up. So it's better to have it in a container, like a reel or a box that breathes. Don't seal it up. Digitize it, don't seal it up, keep it cold. Let's see. So Elaine's asking, will you show us how we scan slides? Absolutely. We're just going to do a quick tour around the room and we'll end there and we'll focus on that. Kay's asking if we charge by the foot for digitizing film. That's exactly what we do. Laura's asking, do we have a handout listing suppliers? No, but I'll make one. I can include that like as a follow-up or something, because we buy this stuff all the time. It doesn't all come from one place. I've done all the research, so I'd be happy to share that for sure. Excellent. So Gladys is asking a question about cleaning the film. Great question. It is very sophisticated. We have it in a little bottle. We have a little microfiber towel. We wear gloves, again, because we're handling the film and because this probably isn't the best stuff for your skin. So we take this, we wet it, we screw it back on because this stuff evaporates really fast and it's about $70 a quart, right? Where it's like almost $300 a gallon. So it's expensive. It works well, but it's expensive. So we want to preserve it. We don't want to spill it. We don't want it to evaporate. So we seal it up, we put it down, and then we just run the rag over the film as we're winding it and rewinding it. Allows us to clean and condition the film. It also allows us to check for damage. Are there broken, are there weak splices? Is stuff messed up? Does stuff need a little bit more elbow grease to clean it, whatever it is? So we check it as we go, and that's kind of our process. Excellent. So I think that's the film questions. Let's just move down the line. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to move this little work stand here, and then Donovan is going to have an easier time following me with the cart. All right. So let's do this. Donovan, you ready to move that one? Excellent. So we'll try not to make you too seasick here. This is a simple production. So these two computers, let's see, I lost my head. There we go. Is that working? There we go. So these two computers in the corner, by the way, everything we run on Macs. It's just a preference. Pretty much everything we do runs on Windows as well. The one exception for the video, for the film recorder, for the retro scan, that software only runs on Windows. So we do a dual boot system on the Mac, so we can capture that video and then we kind of bring it over on the Mac side. The Mac's over here in the corner. This is where I tend to sit. The other thing we do in addition to film, we do tons of digital organizing. So that may not be super interesting to you if you're a film person, but we take people's stuff from all of their gadgets, iPhones, cloud, hard drives, backups, all of that stuff, and we organize it. We use Lightroom, we use industry standards to just make sense of all of that stuff. We enjoy that work and do a lot of that. Donovan, can you follow me this way? And I'm just gonna explain one or two other little things here that I think will interest you. They fascinate me and they help the work that we do. So right here with this guy, if you can see this, this is new to us. It is a 32 terabyte RAID. So depending on the projects you're doing, if you just have a couple, if you're occasionally shooting film, whatever, you can just use kind of normal hard drives like this, right? The one thing that I would say about the work that we do and that you're doing, if it's your own photography, maybe you're working with clients, whatever it is, all this work, it's pretty tedious, right? Scanning film, whatever, like it's pretty tedious. And I love doing it, but I don't want to do it twice, right? Like I want to do it once, I want to do it right the first time, and I want to keep it safe. So with that in mind, anytime we buy a drive, we buy at least 2, oftentimes 3. So we've got like a main working drive, a backup, and then an offsite backup. And you could use a cloud service like Backblaze or something like that. But hard drives are generally pretty cheap. So we have lots and lots of drives, like dozens around here. So you'll see these in the background. But the other 2 things that I really wanted to call out just generally is this RAID. We got this from Other World Computing. They're in the US. I know they distribute in Europe as well, maybe other regions. They are generally like kind of a computer peripheral company. They happen to be near us in Chicago and do great stuff. I really like their storage. So 2 things from them are this 32 terabyte RAID. It's super fast and it's just got a lot of nice storage. So if you're digitizing all sorts of stuff, especially for other clients, it can be helpful to have something that's big, fast, and also redundant. So one of these drives in here, there's 4 drives in here. One of these drives can die and I don't lose anything, right? Like there's always some kind of failure. So we like this, we share this here in the studio and everybody has access to that. The other thing that I'll call out, and I'll try to come close here and show this guy off a little bit. So some of you guys know there's different kinds of hard drives. There's kind of conventional spinning hard drives. There are newer SSD drives, and this is a special flavor. This one happens to be from Other World Computing as well. What I like about this is it's got 2 things, and some of you have heard me talk about this before. It has NVMe storage. So basically that is really fast SSD. SSD is short for solid state drive. Lots of you guys know that, but this is a special flavor. It's super fast. The other thing that's not obvious just by looking at it, but the little cable on it is Thunderbolt 3. What's nice about that is that makes these drives insanely fast. So as a practical example, we might work on a really big project, client project, and like one that I worked on recently, at the end, it was almost a terabyte of data, all the stuff we had digitized and everything. So to copy that to the client, then it's like a lot of transfer and whatnot. So I was able to copy a 1 terabyte project in 8 minutes because these drives are so crazy fast. Not everybody needs that. The general rule of thumb is these drives cost about 10 times more than a normal spinning hard drive, and they're about 30 times faster. So it's kind of this trade-off of like, again, not everybody needs that speed. Sometimes you can just let it go and go make lunch or whatever. But if you're dealing with a lot of data, I find them pretty helpful. I already had a couple in the studio and I just bought 2 more last week, and I'm kind of spoiled. Going back to normal hard drives is kind of difficult. So that's kind of been a fun find for us. Yeah. So one question, I don't want to miss it. So Maud is asking, why would we cut 8mm film before digitizing it? Why not just digitize as is? Super smart question. We would prefer not to cut the film. However, sometimes it's required. So for example, sometimes there will just be damage, right? Like some of it's torn. And so what we need to do is we need to trim out a couple of frames, splice it together. You'll lose a split second, but the frame has to be kind of intact, or the reel has to be intact so we can capture it. The other thing that we'll do sometimes is if the beginning of the reel has frames all the way to the end, we need to add what's called a leader. We add about 2 feet of that white material to the front so that we can snake it through the machine, get it, get traction on the take-up reel. And then when we start digitizing it, it'll start where the picture is instead of like missing 2 feet, right? So that would be one example where we might like trim a little crimp off of it, splice it together. So we might lose like a frame, but that means we can capture the whole reel without missing any content. Yeah. And a couple other questions are coming up there. So the name of the drive again, basically these are Thunderbolt drives. That's the connector type instead of USB. It looks like USB-C. What's different? Let's see. Is that gonna work on the camera? I'm not sure. I think so. There's a Thunderbolt icon on it, like a lightning strike icon. So those are Thunderbolt 3 drives from Otherworld Computing, and I'll put a link. I'll put together some little reference guide with some of these links, and I'll share that out. So good stuff. So I wanted to hit the storage side because again, if you do all this work, I think it's really important to keep it safe, and it's nice to access it fast. So let me pause there. Any questions about that so far? You can text chat, you can voice chat, whatever you like. Any questions? Alrighty, it looks good. Oh, is Thunderbolt Mac only? Good question. So Raymond, Thunderbolt is not Mac only. It is more common on the Mac platform, but it's available on both. Yeah, so you're cross-platform in that way. And Laurel, you're asking about the storage. So just to clarify, it's I'll type it, NVMe, M as in Michael, NVMe. Yeah, so it's been around for a couple of years. Most people don't realize, but if you have a Mac laptop from the last, I don't know, 5-7 years or whatever, all the Mac laptops have been using NVMe storage. So it's not exactly new, but it's crazy fast. It is a bit of a premium price and super helpful. Excellent. So Carmen, can you explain how the backup of the RAID, how it works in RAID? Not really. I mean, I can, but it's complicated because there's a ton of different kinds of RAID setups. That could be a whole separate class, and we won't be able to get into it today. But know that I have another one of these off-site. So if you're thinking like, hey, dozens of terabytes of information, how nice. But what happens if it dies, right? If one of these drives dies, no problem. But we also have an off-site version as well. And then the last question I see here from Tammy, does OWC only offer one type of RAID? Definitely not. They have a ton. So if you need something specific, they have tons and tons of options. And their support team are great. So if you've got a specific thing that you're looking to do, hit them up. I think they give really good advice. And then Tom, you're asking, is Thunderbolt compatible with USB-C? Generally it is. Yeah, they use the same cable. They look like the same cable, but the Thunderbolt devices are just a lot faster. So that can be helpful, but also a little confusing. It's a little wacky. I didn't make it up. I just use it. So that's a little bit how it works. So yeah, good stuff. Great questions. Let me see. I was going to mention one other thing. Oh, maybe one other thing here. I will actually, Donovan, I'm going to ask you to drive. As we look at the walls, before we go over and talk about video, Donovan's going to grab the camera there. On the walls here in the studio, we deal with so much stuff that either from my own memory or for reference for clients, we've got these like specimen posters. So we've got, digital storage over here. Donovan was showing the computer cable guide. Next to it, we've got a kind of a guide to slides and formats, film reels, all this stuff. I like these posters because my memory's not always as good as I think it is. And so I designed these posters and they're all actual size. So if you've got something and you're not sure what it is, you can just hold it up to the thing and see, is this what I think it is? Is it the right size, the right format, whatever. So anyway, if you see those in the background, that's just kind of what's going on there. So Donovan's going to follow me, and I'm going to hit on one other topic, and then we'll dive deep into camera scanning. So the other thing that we do, I'll give you a little tour through memory lane, as it were. I don't know how old you guys are. Some of you are older than me. Some of you are younger, but this will date me a little bit. So this is a VHS tape. We convert lots of those. This the side-by-side comparison is helpful. It's a little bit smaller. If you know what this one is, throw it in the chat pod, I'm curious. You might have to be a certain age to know this one. Excellent. So Mel, Tammy, and Mike, you guys are getting it right. So this is Beta or Betamax. Just for the sake of debate, it was a better format. It was higher quality, and it lost. It just didn't win in the marketplace. I can't remember the whole history. I think there were more companies behind VHS. I think Sony was really kind of going it alone for the most part with Beta, and they didn't win. Sony won a lot of format wars, but they didn't win this one. So anyway, I just think that's a fun bit of history because our first VCR in the early 80s was Beta. I wish I still had it. I could use it. But we convert all sorts of tapes. So that's VHS-C, like the small version of the VHS. We do 8mm tapes. And these are a little bit confusing because there's 3 tapes that all look identical, but that are different. There's like video 8, there's high 8, there's digital 8. Sometimes these can be confusing. They can all be converted, but they might need different cameras. So if you put a tape in a camera and it doesn't work, don't give up. It's not necessarily blank. You got to make sure you're using the right equipment. So I like to point that out to people so they don't like throw away their memories. Like there is hope. Late 90s, early 2000s, a really popular option was mini DV. This was kind of cool because it's a magnetic tape, but it's digital video, which is nice. And then most people have not seen this. It's really tiny. This is called micro MV. We capture these as well. There's actually about a dozen different tape formats that we convert, but like by comparison, even that tiny little mini DV tape, it looks big compared to this one. It was up to 60 minutes of digital video, super tiny, pretty obscure, did not last long. Another Sony format that did not win the format wars, but kind of interesting. So anyway, the thing that I'll mention about this before we end on camera scanning is if I pivot this, what you'll see over here is, am I getting that? No, this way, here we go. What you're seeing here is a couple things that we use constantly. We have tape rewinders, pretty simple, but just like in the 80s and the 90s, they save wear and tear on the VCRs that we use. So we rewind all the tapes, we get them ready, and then if you're looking to digitize your own videos or just curious how this stuff works, there's basically 2 categories. One is analog tape, so that's going to be your VHS, your Beta, your video 8, like high 8, all of that stuff. In that case, you basically need a couple things. You need a camera or a tape deck, like a VCR that plays that format. And we kind of blew by it, but let's actually, Donovan, can you just pan back a little bit and show them our collection of obscure video devices? So he's going to take you a tour of lots of different cameras, VHS-C and mini DV and micro MV. We also do DVD cam. That was the mini DVD discs that always needed finalized before you could work with them, if you're familiar with that. So anyway, we just have several of like every kind of camera that we support. And then Donovan, if you don't mind going around the corner. So there's some client projects, and then kind of pan down a little bit and right, little retro electronics tour. Those are just a bunch of VCRs. I got more where that came from. We also do audio tapes and whatnot. That's awesome. Thanks, Donovan. Anyway, I just mentioned that nobody's making this stuff anymore. So I'm the weird guy at Goodwill and yard sales and Facebook Marketplace buying all this old stuff, keeping it clean and keeping it working. So all that to say that you're going to need, if you want to convert tapes, you're going to need a camera or a VCR that supports that format. If it's analog, like I mentioned, like the VHS and the high 8 and stuff, we really like this Elgato device. On one end, it's got the kind of the video component cables. And on this end, it's a USB, it's a standard USB-A connector. So you put your tape in a camera, connect the camera with this to your computer, Mac or Windows, doesn't matter. And then this thing, this Elgato, it's called an Elgato video capture device. They're about $100 each. We've got a bucket of them over here because we use them all the time. You connect that to the computer. Again, it's Elgato video capture. I see people taking a double double take there. You take that device and you connect it to the computer. This comes with software that captures it direct to an MP4 video file. And some people say like, oh, it's not great quality. And I'm like, well, it wasn't back in the 80s either, right? Like it's actually fine, and we're getting the best possible capture we can out of it, but it is kind of like 40 years old in some cases or more. The last thing I'll mention about video is a common point of confusion or frustration for some of our clients is DVDs. So everybody says, oh, DVD is, it's digital and it'll last forever. And I'm like, not so fast. So I actually used to work in the CD and DVD industry. And the bummer about it is DVDs can decay. Most of them use organic materials on the underside in the dyes. That's what gives them their like blue or green or purple color. And those decay eventually, and your DVD becomes unreadable, and there's nothing you can do about it. So if that's your only copy, I'm sorry. My warning to you is digitize those, like get them onto the computer, like rip them with Handbrake, which is what we do. Convert those ASAP. And the thing that that I've found recently is no joke. We have a higher success rate capturing beta cassettes from 40 years ago than we do converting DVDs from 10 years ago. So that's my friendly warning. If you're relying on DVD backup or CD backup, it's probably not as reliable as you think. So just a little caution. Steve says he loves the Elgato, best one I've tried. Agreed, totally agreed. Yeah, good stuff. Phil's asking, how do you find a good professional quality VCR for transferring tapes to digital? One tip, there's a lot of variables. One thing that I'll say is I prefer to find super VHS decks. They're not necessarily a ton more expensive, but most of them have like time-based correction in them. And my favorite part, if you can see it here, this one does. It's probably hard to see on video, but the magic here, the video on the super VHS transfers with S-video instead of composite video. And it is noticeably a cleaner signal. It's, you don't have to be like a techie to see the difference. It matters. So it's a simple thing and just a way to get a better capture. So I prefer those. Yep. Excellent. And Gladys, do you improve the quality of the VHS tapes in any way? I don't. You could try. They're kind of low resolution. It's not always the best quality. You could arm wrestle over it, but generally we're just happy with capturing the memories versus noodling over the pixels, so that's kind of our approach. So good questions. I think I've hit them all. Donovan's gonna follow me. And when you guys kind of did the, hey, here's what I'm interested in, the hottest topic was this one here. So let me wake up this computer. You guys can see me here, okay, awesome. And let me see, I'm gonna do one thing. Donovan's been running the camera. I'm just gonna go with a little bit wider field of view. Is that better? There we go. Yeah, so a little wider so you can see a little bit more. Does that work better for you guys? Little thumbs up, yeah? So I just wanted you to see the workstation. I have all the lights on right now, just so you can kind of see me on camera. Normally, we are working in the dark, not pitch dark. What you might notice down here is we have some under table lighting. It's just like LED lighting strips, but that allows me to not be completely blind and like fall over things, right? But we can turn the kind of the room lights off here in the studio. And the goal is to eliminate like stray light from around the scene so that the only light really that I'm capturing is coming from the lights and stuff that we're using here in the camera scanning rig. Does that make sense? In terms of camera scanning, we do, let me pull this out, give you a little format tour, okay? We do a little bit of everything. So we do, negatives. These are black and white negatives I shot in 1990. We do black and white negatives, color negatives, we do all of that stuff. We do larger format, like medium format negatives. This is 120, a wide frame of 120. I mentioned that we like weird stuff. I'm just fascinated by history. And so there's disc film. Always 15 frames per reel. They're super tiny. They're normally pretty noisy. So they're not always great photographs, but they can be fun memories. Also another round format. Does anybody recognize that in the chat pod? Is that familiar? A little history here. This was, I think, yeah, Viewmaster reels. Most of these were like commercial reels with like Disney and national parks and stuff like that. But you could also buy a Sawyer. I own one. I should have brought it today, but it's beautiful. A Sawyer 3D camera. It shot 2 frames for every exposure. And then it came with a custom cutter, and you can mount what they call personal reels. Maybe you can, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's called a personal reel. So we scan these, and this is a personal reel from a family. We have a custom rig that we use. They're totally beautiful, love them. So we like that kind of stuff. We've also got, here's a tintype, literally a metal photograph. And it's kind of hilarious to think about this because now we have like a million phones in our pocket. Sorry, not a million phones, a million photos in our pocket on our phone. And they used to be metal, or I will handle this delicately. I'm not going to open it all up because I don't want to put gloves on, but we've got in this case, a glass plate negative. I've got a collection of those as well. So talk about delicate, difficult to handle photography, mid 1800s to late 1800s, glass plates, kind of crazy. Of course, we also do prints of any kind. Basically, we tell people if you can see it, you can scan it. Here's a medium format slide, a little bit bigger, just for size reference. 35 millimeter, that's what most of us see and shoot and scan. We also do medium format. And then the last little tidbit, like in no particular order, we just do random old stuff. So there's a roll of 620. Kind of like 120, 220, same size, 110 film, popular in like the 80s, 90s, not very good quality, but again, some fun memories. This is a roll of I think this is 127. I think that's 127. I forget. I'd have to look at my own poster, but just odd films. APS, again, super popular late 90s, early 2000s when people were transitioning. The reason I kind of show these off is it's what we love about camera scanning, is that we can do all of this. Like, I don't have a bunch of equipment. I've got this. I've got one rig, a few little different setups, but all in like a 2-foot footprint. We scan all this stuff. And the main categories we think about are reflective. So prints, original artwork, things like that. And then all of the transmissive media, all the slides and negatives. The other thing is, actually, Donovan, can you try to tilt that down? This is a little nerdy, but I want to see if you can see under the desk here. Yeah, there we go. So we're really about efficiency and doing great work and keeping our hands on the media. One, it keeps the media safer, and it means that we can work faster. I got a bunch of foot pedals down here. So some of these were just from the hardware store, and they turn on and off our film cleaner. They turn on and off our lights. So there you'll see a blast of light, boom, light. So the other one does our lights, and the other one turns on our copy box for film and transmissive stuff. The fourth pedal is actually wired into my camera, and it's a shutter release. So again, I can release the shutter, work faster, keep my hands on the media, and so we run those 4 pedals just to kind of like keep things moving. And then up here, just by way of explanation, kind of what we've got going on. If you haven't seen a rig like this, we've got a copy stand. Mine happens to be from Smith Victor. It's I'm going to turn the lights off because the contrast is a bit much there, but it's a modestly priced, good, reliable copy stand. It goes up to 42 inches. If you can't see the top, yeah, you can kind of see the top up there. So it allows me to move the camera up and down to different sizes of media with film and stuff. If you guys are film scanners, you're normally going to work down pretty close. If you were doing larger reflective stuff, you'd want to use more of the surface area. And then on the sides, we've got just a simple set of LED studio lights for the reflective media. We put them at 45-degree angles, kind of cross the light and get nice even illumination all the way across the stage area for the reflective stuff. And then my favorite gadget for the transmissive stuff, for the film and whatnot, can I pull this out? Yeah, I can pull this out a little bit more, is the Skier copy box. They've had 3 versions over the last couple of years, and I own all of them, and I think they get better and better. But the process here is, okay, I'm going to turn this to the side. Otherwise, even over the internet, I might blind you. Okay, this thing's really, really bright. So this thing lights up, and they come with a couple of different film carriers, basically. And this one would be for like 35 millimeter film, and it's got a nice channel that keeps it flat as it goes through there. I can spin it over, and it's got a recessed area for 35 millimeter slides. And then they've got other carriers for other sizes, medium format of different widths, medium format slides, all that kind of stuff. So turn that off so nobody goes blind. But basically, we take these gadgets, then put them on the stage area. And the whole magic to this, if you're new to camera scanning, or if you're just trying to figure this out, the essence of it is we're using a Canon 5DSR, so it's very high resolution. It's almost 51 megapixel full frame professional camera. We're using a 100 millimeter professional macro lens, and your goals here are you want high resolution sensor, high quality capture, and you want to use a macro lens with 1:1 zoom ratio. Basically, so it'll be like actual size when you take a picture of it up close, and you can maximize the resolution that you're getting out of here. And our goal for any scanning is for reflective media, we want 600 PPI, and for slides and negs, our goal is 4,000 PPI. That allows us to get really kind of all the practical quality we can out of it, and it allows us to do large reprints, high-end retouching if it needs that kind of work, and so on. So that's our goal. And then the other trick here is, some of you guys have seen this on the internet. The trick, if you think about this, is it's really important that this camera be completely parallel with the media that I'm working with, right? Otherwise, like with such a shallow depth of field, it might be like out of focus or something. So one of the best tricks, the best trick that I found for making sure everything's flat and parallel is to use a mirror. Some people will use a level on the camera. They'll put it up on the back of the camera, like a little spirit level that is common in photography and whatnot. But all that guarantees is that the camera is parallel to the earth. But if, like, I'll try to make this obnoxious, like if my copy box, you guys see this in the background, if my copy box is a little crooked, like if it's not completely flat, then the camera being parallel, parallel to the earth, it's level, that's irrelevant. I need it to be parallel to the box or the source. And so for that, I use a mirror. This, I won't be able to illustrate this. I won't be able to let you see through the lens here. That's a little tricky. But the essence of it is we look through the lens, we turn the light on, we look through the lens. And as we look through the lens, I'm looking for the center focus point in the lens. And as soon as I see that in the center of the barrel, then I know that my camera and my film stage are parallel, right? It literally takes about a second, 2 seconds if you're slow. It doesn't require any, the only equipment, this was from the dollar store. It's a $1 mirror, literally $1. It's an easy trick. And so that's how we make sure everything's parallel and aligned, and super helpful. The other thing that I'll mention just in terms of quality, because I'm kind of a little OCD about quality, and I really am proud of the work we do. I bought a couple of, over the last year or so, I bought a couple of test targets. There's a guy named Vlad in Brooklyn, super smart guy. And these are test targets based off US Air Force, like optical patterns. So I've got one for 35 millimeter film, and I've got a strip for medium format film. So this allows me to check like the focus and the evenness of it and everything of our scans. So I could tell you, I could do some marketing stuff and say, hey, we do really good scans, and I could just make stuff up. But with these, I can actually know, like, am I really in focus? Is everything really parallel? It just confirms that like we're really doing good work and getting the best quality out of it. So I recommend these if you're into camera scanning. I'll put together a guide and include the links to these, but I found these really helpful just to validate, like, am I really setting this up right? The couple of other tools that we really find helpful include a bulb blower. These are about $10. and they're worth about 1,000 in terms of cleaning your negatives, because the worst thing about scanning, especially film, is dust. And so having this is really helpful, just to blow that dust off there, so you're not having to retouch that in the computer. The other thing that I use is an anti-static brush from Kinectronix. I don't touch the bristles because I don't want my finger oil on there, you know, but it definitely helps dislodge different kinds of debris. And the last thing, let's see here. I'm going to unplug this, but I'll show it to you. So this is a Kinectronix. It's the same company that makes that little brush that I showed you. It's a Kinectronix static vac. It is not very large. It looks kind of ancient. It looks like it's from the 80s. And it's kind of expensive. It cost me almost $700 US. It is worth its weight in gold. I wasn't sure when I bought it. I was like, is this just the dumbest thing I've ever bought? This is like the cost of an appliance and it fits in my hand. But the quality is incredible in terms of the cleaning. So what it is it's got 4 anti-static brushes, 2 on each side. It's large enough to fit medium format film. It's also got an ionizer inside. That's why it needs to be plugged in. The ionizer discharges static electricity and helps disperse all of the debris, like the dust and stuff. And then on the back, it's also got a fan. It's got basically a vacuum. So it dislodges, disperses stuff with the ionizer. Then it's got a filtered vacuum on the back that's sucking all that stuff out. And the time that this has saved me retouching dots and spots and stuff on slide and negative scans is worth its weight in gold. And to be honest with you, I'm a dad of 4. I'm cheap. I wasn't sure if this was going to be worth it. And it's been awesome. And so if you do any slide scanning, film scanning of any volume, I highly recommend it. Any of the Kinectronix stuff is great, but for the volume that we do, this has more than paid for itself. We have 2 kind of categories of clients. Most of our clients are families, but some of our clients are really excellent photographers who either in the past or still shoot a lot of film. And so they'll bring us their stuff. They'll bring us their slides and negatives. And I literally just had a lunch yesterday with a friend who's an excellent photographer. He brought me some film from the installation, the construction and the final installation of the St. Louis Arch. Beautiful American landmark, beautiful photographs, beautiful black and white photographs. And he was, as we had lunch together, he was complimenting me on the quality of the scans we did. And for somebody who's that picky about his photographs, he was just raving how clean they were. And I was like, that's my secret, right? This helps us get those kind of results and do great work that even like a great photographer is pleased with. So highly recommend that guy. I've got a few other things that I want to show you guys here. Before we're out of time, let me just look and see questions. Let's see. So Bev is asking, how large of a photo are you able to shoot there? Easily 8 by 10. And we've done stuff probably 2 feet by 3 feet, not all in one capture, but we'll do multiple captures and stitch it. I actually just did a project last week of a photo of print probably from 1899, beautiful antique print. And we scanned it extensively with this, stitched it, retouched it, and kind of restored it into I think it's a 3.2 gigabyte TIFF file. Really big, really high resolution file. And then we're going to print that as a large canvas, probably about 4 by 5 feet for this client. So that's kind of fun. So we can go big with stitching. So let's see, Becky's asking, how often do we check that the camera's parallel? At least every day, preferably more often, because I will tell you, you will attach this to the copy stand. You will swear that you never touched it. You'll swear that you were really careful, and then it'll be crooked. Like, I don't know how it happens. It just does. So check it often, tighten it down really tight, and keep tabs on it for sure. Phil's asking, when scanning photos in a photo album, how do you scan each photo without ruining the photo album? So complex topic, it depends. I just did a project yesterday that was a scrapbook. And in that case, it had a post system. I was able to disassemble it, take all the pages out and scan each one flat without a sheet protector. Super fast, awesome quality. It was fantastic. It depends. Sometimes you have to take them out. Sometimes you can leave them. It'll just vary. So Luann is asking about the negatives we use to kind of validate or measure. They're test targets from a guy named Vlad. I'll include Vlad's website. I'll put together a guide for you guys. Yeah. Good stuff. And Raymond is asking, is camera attached to the external monitor? Kind of. What it is, and I don't have it up and running. I should have had it up and running. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. I'll let me fire this up. So some other things that you probably don't see just by looking at the setup here, but let me explain that's super helpful. The camera is a little bit unique. It doesn't have two things that a camera would normally have. There's no battery in it. There's no memory card in it. Might sound odd, but let me explain why. So it's actually really important for productivity. There's no battery in it because instead of running off battery, we have what's called a battery coupler. And you can get these for whatever kind of camera you've got. You do want, by the way, if you're not doing this yet, you're thinking about it, you do want a DSLR, or you could also do a mirrorless, but you want like an interchangeable lens system. You don't want to point and shoot. You don't want to use your phone for this stuff. Like you need a real camera. We recommend at least 24 megapixels. That would allow you to get, if you crop really tightly, that would allow you to get 4,000 PPI for like a 35 millimeter film. So that's pretty good. So you want, a real camera, interchangeable lenses, a 1-to-1 macro, 24 megapixels, and then our camera does not have a battery because it's got the battery coupler, which means it runs into the power outlet in the wall. So I never have to run out of battery, right? Especially some cameras, they'll be tricky to mount on a copy stand and pull a battery out to swap it, nightmare, and you have to realign everything, not worth it. So the battery coupler keeps us running. And then the other thing, and I will illustrate this right now, I'll turn on a tethered capture and see if you guys can see this. Let's see. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put on a glove. You didn't see these, not super sexy, but super helpful. Anytime I'm handling media, I'm always wearing gloves. I prefer nitro gloves because they give me actually better grip on especially like film, slides, glass plate negatives, things like that. Cotton inspection gloves are like kind of what you see in the movies, but they're actually slippery and they don't handle very well. So we would take this piece of film, drop it in here, turn the light on, and I'm not even gonna like align this, but I'll just show you by illustrative purposes kind of what we've got going on. I'll bring this down a little bit, I'll autofocus it a little bit. And again, that's not very tightly cropped, but I think you can see this kind of showing up here on the computer, and it's just what the camera's seeing. So the other thing that the camera doesn't have is the memory card, right? It is tethered via a USB cable into the computer so that Lightroom can see what I'm doing real time. So we capture everything with Lightroom Classic. I can take a photo, and in a second, this like 50 megapixel, like 60 megabyte file shows up. And I can zoom in and pan around. And again, this isn't dialed in, but very quickly I can see over here exactly what I've shot, verify that it looks as I expect, and then go on to the next image. Cool. Excellent. All right. Tammy's asking, could you use the Kinectronix vacuum cleaner on really dusty, dirty portrait like prints if they fit? You could, but I wouldn't. If a print's really dusty, I'm going to tend to use the brush, because at that point I actually probably need more physical force. You want to be careful of the emulsion, but I'll use a brush, maybe even a microfiber cloth. Like I wouldn't do that like on a glass plate negative, but like a print from the 90s that's just a little grungy. Totally, that can be a little bit more effective. The last things I'll mention here are some nerdy little things that I get a lot of mileage out of. So these are tweezers with a silicone tip. They're just helpful for handling photos, pulling stuff out of negative sleeves when they're a little tacky and things like that. I get a lot of mileage out of these. I've got this thing. I don't know what it is. It's a little sharp thing. It's like a little sharp, some kind of an artist tool that I bought in an art supply store. or it looks like something like an old dentist would use, something sharp. And I use this to just get to little things. Sometimes little things get stuck, things need lifted, things need moved, whatever. And all, yes, it's like a tiny little artist's awl of sorts. So that's helpful. And then the other thing is I have a drawer full of these guys. These are Stabilo all pencils. They're like $1 or $2 a piece. They come in a bunch of colors. I tend to prefer black, red, and white. And we use these to mark things in a safe way. It's a very soft lead with a lot of wax in it. And you can write on anything. You can write on glass, metal, paper, film reels, whatever. I wouldn't write on the negative, right? But if they were in sleeves, you could like circle stuff. And it's so soft that you're not going to damage the negative, but you could mark, X stuff out or circle highlights, things like that. So we really like the Stabilo pencils and find tons of uses for them just day to day. So yeah, so that's the little tour. Let me, I see a few more questions. I want to answer those questions, see if you've got more, and then I'm going to give a few things away, and hopefully that'll be a fun note to end on. So Marianne's asking if this is recorded. We have recorded this, and so we'll share this out if you've got a split or just liked it so much you want to watch it again. Cycle time for scanning photos. I think you're talking speed. Like on a slow day, we can do a couple hundred an hour, and fast production, I can do 600 prints an hour. The one thing that I didn't explain that is not going to be obvious looking at it, for prints, let's see, hopefully you can see that. We basically have a little simple piece of museum glass. We tape it down on one side like a little hinge. We put the photo on under there. We take a photo of it. We can do 600 an hour if I'm really cranking, and I've done as many as 900 slides an hour. That's not all the work, by the way. That's just the capture. So if I need to go crop, rotate, white balance, whatever, like there's still more work to be done, but the actual capture can be pretty fast. So that's kind of average for us. In terms of formats, it's a great question from Tom. We capture everything in Camera Raw. If you're camera scanning, don't capture JPEG. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. It's a little waste of time. It's better than nothing, but shoot raw. And then we convert everything to DNG, digital negative. And that makes the file sizes smaller without any quality loss. And it also allows the files to be more future-proof. And it allows us to embed all the metadata in the file, so there's no sidecar files. And that raw file allows us to do much more editing and retain much more quality of the image. What we deliver to the client 99% of the time is a really high quality JPEG. Every once in a while, somebody wants a TIFF, and the file sizes are like 10 times bigger, but not really much better quality. So I'm like, sure, whatever you want, it's fine by me. But generally, we just deliver a really good quality JPEG. Yeah, so how much editing do we do for clients' images? Generally, we just want to make the client photos look great, like at least as good as they did originally. And with slides and negatives, we can normally make them look better than the prints that they were done at the drugstore. If you're like a high-end photographer and you're very picky about your prints, like that's not what I'm talking about, but family snapshots, we do great work. We kind of distinguish between like capture and restoration. If something's damaged, we need to do a lot of work on it. We do restoration, but it's kind of a separate service. Let's see a few more here. What device do we use to digitize audio tapes? I can't remember. It's like a $20 gadget. It's basically like audio input on one side, USB on the other, plug it into the computer, I launch Adobe Audition, and I capture. I was just doing some audio the other day, and the audio was good, but it was noisy from the device. So we ran it through an extra step where we captured an audio, like a noise print, and then ran a quick process to like remove that hiss and fuzz. And we're able to really clean up the audio. So we can do that as a quick pass on the audio side. So can you talk a little bit about photo organizing? So do you provide a Lightroom catalog with or without keywords? Great question. So at a minimum, we do scanning. We'd prefer to do, sorry, let me turn this back off. We prefer to do organizing because we think scanning is super fun and it's a great important step, but like finding and sharing is really what we're after, and the metadata helps there. So that's normally phase 2. So we do that, and then, but it's an optional service. We don't force anybody into it. Then the other thing that we do, we have I've got a course on my site that I developed with my friend Laura Woolsey, and we call it the Easy Index Workflow. So if you can see this, how am I going to do this? So if you can see this, basically our goal when we scan physical media is we work in batches, normally based on like the roll of film or whatever makes sense. And then we keep everything on the computer synchronized with the physical stuff so that in the end, everything is synchronized, findable, and beautifully professionally labeled. So there's Kevin's first haircut, right? Like everything just all makes sense together, and we store it all in archival boxes. Is kind of the gist of that process. Yeah, let's see. I don't want to keep you guys long. I know we're a little after 2, so let me wrap this up quickly. How do you save the original metadata, or does it create new file metadata? So Debbie, great question. One of the reasons we use Adobe Lightroom Classic and all the software we do is we're really about quality and open standards. So we do not want all of this work to like only work with one kind of phone or one kind of computer or one kind of software. We think that's kind of like a hostage situation. It's like, no, they're your photos, they're your memories. They should last longer than your next phone, right? So everything we do is embedded inside the files. There's no extra metadata file, there's no extra catalog. If you want the Lightroom catalog as a client, we're happy to give that to you, and that's convenient, but the metadata lives in the files. So that's really important to us. Becky's asking, do you find that we need to replace the museum glass periodically? Yes, we do. There's a like a coating, not a film, but there's a coating to it that helps reduce the glare. And with a lot of handling, working fast, it gets scratched. I've partnered with my local framing shop they're just delightful folks. And so I get all my glass from them, and I just got a new batch literally like 2 weeks ago. Yep. And Carmen's asking, what do we use for stitching? Like when scanning large oversized items, scrapbooks, things like that. We do it right in Lightroom. It works really well. It's already there. Like we bring the photos in, we hit a keyboard shortcut and it stitches them like really fast, really, really well. So we like that a ton. So yeah. So that was fast. Maybe I should have scheduled more time, but it is Saturday. You guys have other stuff to do. So let's do this. I appreciate you guys coming. I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you coming and joining. And if you've got questions, I hope you'll be in touch. You can find us at chaos2memories.com. I'll put my email there, adam@chaos2memories. I got to make sure I type correctly. Be bad if I mistype my own email, adam@chaos2memories.com. You can shoot me an email if you've got questions. The last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use the random number generator on the internet. I'm going to put in the number of people here. And Donovan, can you grab a pencil and one of those index cards just in the corner there? And so that I don't lose track in the midst of the excitement. So here's what I'm going to do.
Hey, Adam.
Going to give away 3 things. So last year I wrote this book. It seemed like the perfect pandemic project. It's like almost 200 years of photo format history, all sorts of stuff. And what I like about it is every single page has like the history, the story, the dimensions, how to identify it. And it has a picture, actual size of what that thing is. So if you've got a thing, a photo thing, and you're not sure what it is, you can thumb through this book, hold it up to the book, and you can say, that's my thing. That's a 126 negative. It's a 127 super slide. It's a, 828 negative, like whatever it is, you can find it in here. So we sell the hardcover version of that for like $50, and I'm going to send you one of those. I'm going to generate a random number, and I'm going to look down the people list. Counting. And Grace is the winner of that. Grace, I'm probably not going to do this right, but I'm going to try. Grace Lambrinos, I think. So Grace, I will email you. You can email me too, but I'll email you and get your shipping address. I'll send you that. That was like my my pandemic project last winter. That was nice. Fun. So that was fun. The other 2 things that I wanted to give away are, I'm just going to do like some virtual gift certificates. They're not paper. I'll just give you credit. So if you're the kind of person that wants help with a project, you need some stuff scanned or whatever, we do that. We'd love to help you with that. So I'll give away a $50 kind of credit for scanning or conversion services. if that would be helpful for you. Let me generate a random number. Excellent. Let me just go down the list. Excellent. So Eileen Fratangelo. Did I do that right? You can tell me. Yeah, Eileen. Yep. So that is $50 of scanning or conversion, if I can help you with that. And I'll follow up with those details. And the last thing I thought I'd give away, we've got a bunch of online classes. We've got more in the works, and I'm actually working on my next book. It's all about photo organizing, and I'm super excited about it. It's coming along well and should be available like in the spring or summer. I love the work that we do, and I love to share that with people. So the books in process. We've got a bunch of online courses. I don't know, 8, something like that, 8 different courses. Some of them about the camera scanning, some of them about like the easy index workflow that I mentioned, keeping everything organized after you scan it, Lightroom, metadata, file formats, whatever. So I was going to give one. I'll do 2. Let's do 2 $50 credits. I can give you an online code for those courses. So let me go generate 2 more numbers. That was easy. 63 all the way to the bottom. Tom Trissel is in for $50 for a course credit. And number 9 goes to Carmen. Excellent. Congratulations, Carmen. Enjoy. Super, super. So hopefully that was a fun way to end. Sorry we went a little bit over. I'm happy to stay and chat for a few minutes. You guys probably have real stuff to do, but I'll stay like for another 5 minutes. If anybody wants to come off mute and chat and ask questions, I'll stick around for a few more. But otherwise, thanks a ton for being here. Hopefully this was helpful. Just a little tour of what we do. If you've got more questions or if we can help with anything, let us know. Visit the site, drop me an email, and have a great day. And let's do this just for fun. If you're willing, I thought it would be fun to like post a little screenshot of our little Saturday gathering. So if you don't mind being on camera for a screenshot, can you turn your camera off? And if you're sheepish and you're not into that, you just turn your camera off. That's cool too. I totally get it. Lots of people coming out of the woodwork. Some of these people I know and recognize. I see Becky in her nice, brightly lit office. Very, very nice. Super fun.
I'm here.
Excellent. So, and just so like nobody has anything in their teeth, like let's just check. We'll do a little video check. We'll do a little smile and a wave, and I'll do a screenshot. Awesome. Thanks. Little memento for the day. So thanks a ton for being here. Again, if you guys need to split, enjoy, and I'll hang out for 5 more if I can help with anything.